Welcome to NEK VT Rocks. Our guest today is Pam Kennedy, who's from the Orleans County Seed Library. What is that?
Well, the Orleans County Seed Library is, like many seed libraries throughout the country, a place where it's a public entity, it's free, and people can come and borrow seeds. And there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the basic explanation. Is it is a place to actually borrow seeds.
So do I check them out?
Yes, you do. Well, let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about it.
Cool.
I was looking for a project. I'd finished the Master Gardener program, and I had left my full-time employment with the supervisory union here, and I was looking for something, and at that point I had probably saved marigold seeds, you know, things that were just easy to pull off and save. I didn't know much about it, and I started reading and learning more and more about seed saving, which was very interesting. And then I started finding out about seed libraries around the country. And they're done in very different ways. Many of them are housed in public libraries, our wonderful resource, because they are free and open to the public. And so that was the first thing, where would we house something? I really came into it knowing very little, but did some research with some of the existing seed libraries in the country, and there's one in particular in California, the Richmond Seed Library, that has wonderful resources online. I mean, anything you would ever want to know. And went to, it happened to walk into the Barton Library and said to Tony Eubanks, the wonderful librarian there, who is the heart of that community, and said, you know, I was thinking about a seed library. And she said, I was thinking about a seed library. And so that was 2 years ago. We just finished our first full year as an operating seed library. And it's very simple. The way it works is anyone doesn't even have to be in Orleans County. We currently have members from Caledonia and Essex County as well come into the library. They don't have to join the library, but it's a free library, so you can join it wherever you live, but they don't have to. What they do is they get 2 forms to fill out. It's a 2-sided form, one that just is your basic information, contact information. We have an email list that we send out notices to that, and on the other side we have some guidelines. We don't have the manpower to police people to be sure they're not spraying terrible things on seeds, but we just ask that people sign kind of a pledge about good seed saving. And then you can go through these boxes of seeds. Now we actually have a card catalog full of all kinds of seeds. Choose the ones you think you'd like. You sign them out. You get your own form that you keep record of, and you sign out what you've taken and the date. There's a place for you to make remarks later. And then the other piece that we ask is that if you raise something and you save the seeds, and we encourage people to do that. We do workshops on what seeds are easy to save and how to do it. Bring it back. And I'll tell you why. When we sat down, a group of people, I have about 8 core members that meet regularly, including people from Danville and Derby and Island Ponds. Was a pretty mixed group, and about 25 people currently borrowing seeds this summer, 25 or 30. But when we sat down to talk about why do we want to do this, we came up with a few reasons. One was we really wanted to preserve some heirloom varieties. People don't realize that at the turn of the 20th century, in 1900, we've lost 93% of the varieties of vegetables. Now you go into the farmer's market, and it looks like it's so abundant and beautiful, but in fact we've lost 93% of the varieties of things.
That is horrifying.
Like beans and cucumbers, and it's really unbelievable. We've become such a monoculture. So we're trying to preserve those heirlooms, and there are other wonderful groups in the United States and across the world that are doing that. The oldest of them being the Seed Savers Exchange, which started with grandfather Ott's Morning Glory, was a Morning Glory seed, but has a catalog. I brought one of the other catalogs, the Seed Savers Exchange catalog of seeds that they currently house, and so many of them are for sale once they've bred them out, is about that thick. It's huge. So that was our first reason. Our second reason was really looking at what I think of as our local economy and people's ability to be independent. And so we're really trying to encourage people to garden, to grow some of their own food, to grow in containers if they don't have a yard, and just to become as independent as possible. And we think that's a really important piece of it as well. And then last of all, what we realized was we wanted a community of like-minded people. We wanted to get together with gardeners, and so we get together once a month, and we usually have a topic. I used to do more formal kinds of presentations, but now we have people with a wealth of knowledge, so we'll say, okay, this month we're talking about seed saving. This month we're talking about companion planting. And we just come with all of our ideas and share them. And we publicize those on Front Porch Forum and in the Chronicle, and hope that
and Facebook too.
And Facebook too, and Facebook too.
Yeah.
So that's how our seed library has developed. We really look at it as an outreach to this area, which is hard because, as you know, it's very hard for people to get from one place to another.
Yeah.
And so most of the people using our seed library right now, even though we have a diverse group that meets regularly, most of them are in the Barton and Orleans area. So we are looking at some ways to bring it to other areas. Yeah.
To bring it maybe to Newport.
We could do it to Newport. That's kind of our plan. One of our members, who writes a monthly newsletter that's wonderful, and that she does put on our Facebook page, so you may want to check that out at some point. She wrote a small grant proposal for a group out in Westfield, I think, and we got a very small grant, $300, to create seedlings. We're calling them our seedlings because we're being cute about it. But this was brought about because the Burke Mountain Clubhouse, which is the library in East Burke, asked us, can we have one? Can we have one here? And so we developed that money so that we could print materials and get little shoe boxes and all the things that you need to, and put a notebook together like the notebook we have at Barton. And we're keeping it all under the auspices of the Barton Library because they're our nonprofit entity.
Right.
But we do ask that in any other site there is someone who is willing to make copies of the handouts, because we do have handouts on the easiest seeds to save. How do you get seeds started? Lots of different things. And who would also let us know, hey, we're really low on beans and lettuce, so that we could take it from our larger group of seeds.
Yeah.
So our plan at this point, we've had interest from Island Pond, and interest from the Orleans Library, of course, because they're right there. But we plan in the spring, and actually in late winter, to approach other libraries and see who wants to have this, and then we'll stock it, but we can't man it. We don't have the manpower to man it.
Do you use up each of the batches of seeds each year, or do you freeze them if you want to keep them beyond that?
It really depends on the viability.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read about this, but the archaeologists in the western part of the state found a clay pot.
I read about it.
And they were 8,000-year-old squash seeds that then grew into amazing squash. So some seeds, and we help people kind of figure out what seeds are really viable. Some are not viable for more than 2 or 3 years, but some, many seeds, even though they might have less of a germination rate, so less plants may grow, so you want to put 4 seeds in that hole instead of 2, last for 5 to 10 years. We are, in October, we're going to be weeding ours out because we get donations. We get donations, as many community groups here, from our wonderful neighbors in Walcott, High Mowing Seeds. They're great, and they let us come and take what we need. So when I saw we were running low on carrots and lettuce, I was able to go down there and just get carrots and lettuce. But we also get donations from Baker Seeds, which is a wonderful heirloom seed company, from a place called the Hudson Valley Seed Library, and I just have to show you something from them because they're unbelievable. That is the oldest seed library in the United States, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on the screen. This is a sacred basil. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but what they did was commission artists to do their seed packets, and then they have a traveling exhibit of these paintings.
We can certainly post that online.
They're so beautiful. I can't stand to throw them away. Okay, great. Is it really? And it's just one example. They many of their seeds come in these beautiful packets.
Oh, it's really pretty.
It is gorgeous. And they also donate seeds to us that are really different, as does Seed Savers Exchange. So many of these groups will donate to small libraries like ours, and they send interesting and wonderful things, so that we've had some really unusual sunflowers and beans and squashes that High Mowing may not necessarily have. And so it's kind of fun for our members to try to grow them out and maybe bring seeds back.
So if somebody who has a garden, say in Newport, wants to add seeds to the library, how would they go about that?
Well, it has to be either, it can't be a hybrid seed because those will not breed true. So it has to be open pollinated. Heirloom are always open pollinated. So either of those categories is great. Probably the best way to do it, the way that people have done it, if they're not members of the seed library, is they've contacted me through our email. We have an email, nekseeds@gmail.com, which is also, or through the Facebook page, which is sometimes easier for folks. And I would just meet them there, and we bag them up. We have one of our members was until recently a local pharmacist who closed her business and donated all the little bags that she had that are really good for
Oh,
preserving seeds because
perfect.
they're colored because they
Yeah.
were medication bags. So we have them and we label them, and we just add them to our collection and give them the credit for them. So we have had donations from some local farmers and from the Old Stone House. We've gotten the Brownington bean from the Old Stone House, who, by the way, is kind of a partner of ours in the educational piece. From the beginning, we've done workshops there, and they would like to have a temporary seed library whenever they have events. So we bring our materials to we'll be there at the apple tasting this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be a really worthwhile project to have a table, say, at the farmer's market, so that
Yes.
more people learn about it.
It would. We're really thinking about ways that we can expand our membership, because part of the problem is everyone's busy, and so to have people really be able to spend the time at the farmer's market, especially weekly, might be difficult. But once in a
But a
while,
one-off.
yeah.
For example, the farmer's market here is having a garlic festival.
So that might be a
in 2
perfect
weeks.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, the education coordinator at the Old Stone House called me yesterday to say, can you bring it to the apple tasting? So
Yeah.
we're looking at doing more of those
And
kinds
to
of
talk
things.
about garlic seed, because most people know about the garlic bulb that you
Right.
plant, but
The seeds.
there's not much knowledge about seeds.
That's true. I just planted my first seeds from some that I let
Yeah.
let a
Yeah.
few of them go to seed. We're so used to cutting off
I
those
know,
tops.
and
you
eating
know.
eating
And
the
eating those
scapes.
rams. I know. I love those. I mean,
Yeah.
the scapes. I know scape
Yeah.
pesto is the best.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's our one way that we're expanding is to try to get this out to other libraries, because we know it's hard for people to travel, and we need to do more outreach, and that's one of our plans for this winter, is to really look at our structure and how we can do more outreach to such things like the community gardens
Right.
that are here in Newport and in other places.
It also, for me, an additional benefit is that it removes Monsanto from the loop and some of the other big pesticide-heavy, big bullying.
And some of the big seed
Groups.
companies.
Right.
I mean, many of the seed companies that we know in this area are good, because people
Right.
tend to order from Johnny's or Fedco,
Yes.
but there are, plenty of seeds out there that you wouldn't want in your garden. And interestingly, that is another piece of a seed library. It's actually a political entity. We live in Vermont, which is,
Yes.
amazing. But in Pennsylvania, seed libraries like ours that were in public libraries were being shut down by big seed companies that were protesting that they were not following all the regulations that the seed companies had to follow. And luckily, the seed libraries did finally win the suit. But it's
What a
it's-
waste of time and money.
Oh, it is, but it's so disturbing to,
Yes.
well, it's always as disturbing to a large entity when somebody rocks the boat.
Exactly.
And you really look at something like a seed library, and if everyone learned how to grow out even the difficult seeds, there would be a kind of a problem, because we'd all be very independent and be able to sustain it ourselves. I mean, I think we'd
What a
always,
shock.
yeah, I know. I think we'd always want to rely on people like High Mowing, who grow out all those trial fields and try wonderful new
Right.
things. We don't have the land for that. And some things are harder to save, like squash seeds. If you're a gardener and you've grown several kinds of squash, it's probably at some time in your gardening career they have crossed and you have gotten some amazing gourds. So that's one of the ones that's more difficult, but not impossible. The same thing is true with biennial vegetables like carrots. You have to let that carrot wait another year, and then,
Right.
and that's not always an easy thing to do. But if you think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of years that mankind has planted seeds, they didn't have seed catalogs until about 100 years ago.
No, they didn't.
And people, nomadic people from ancient times and people that came as immigrants to this country and to other places brought their seeds. That was what was going to make it viable for them to move. They had to they brought their food in their little pouch, and
Right.
that was what really made it viable. So it seems like a kind of a crazy idea. We're so used to being able to just order or even buy start plants anytime we want, but it's it's ancient history to be seed saving. Yeah.
Are all of your plants in your own garden from Seed Savers Library?
Well, no, not necessarily, because I might buy seeds that I want from somebody, like I didn't get any sacred basil in our donation, but I could grow this out now and donate seeds next year, because basil does produce seed that I can save.
Are you going to?
Yeah.
Good. Put
I
me on
am.
the list.
Okay, it's good. I will. So there's that piece where I'll see some kind of a bean or some kind of a basil, another kind of an herb, and just think, well, I really want to try this, and so I do try it myself. I've been growing my tomatoes from seeds from tomatoes for about, I don't know, maybe 5 years now, so I haven't had to buy any tomato seeds. But if we got some in that were interesting, I do borrow quite a few from the seed library, hopefully to return them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a greenhouse?
No, my husband's building one right now.
Aren't you lucky?
I am lucky. It's been a long project because, of course, my husband's a wonderful construction person and detailed, and so things always take a really long time. But I'll have it by next spring.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
It's hard to germinate seeds without a greenhouse.
It's
in our
very
climate.
hard.
And if you don't have a window in your house, that's a really good one.
And if you do have a window in your house, that's a really good one. I have a wonderful southwest-facing living room windows. It means your living room is taken over. I live in a little house.
Yes, exactly.
My living room is taken over with tomatoes and peppers, and I want more nasturtiums. And they're it's just everywhere. So a greenhouse would be a wonderful thing. And wouldn't it be great if we could figure out a way to have common greenhouses?
That would be fantastic.
Wouldn't it be great? Because there's so many people that want to do that. Oh, we'll have to think about that.
I really like that
I know, me
idea.
too. I do too.
And
just like I
maybe
love
that
community
is
gardens.
something that a group, because I can't imagine that I'm the only one who's going to say, wow, what a great idea.
Wow, we have to think about that. We'll have to think about how we can do some funding and where we would put that greenhouse.
Yeah. Well, when you look at how one of the earlier shows for this show, we had Jennifer Bernier from Fresh Start on. And when you look how that has grown over the 5 years.
Absolutely. It's really wonderful.
Well, think what a greenhouse could do.
And the other community garden that's doing very interesting things is the one in St. Johnsbury.
Yeah.
I met those folks at a community garden meeting in the spring, and they were feeling like they didn't have as many volunteers. It was just, it's always an ongoing effort if you work in any place that depends on volunteers. It's always recruiting and getting people excited. So they started having the most amazing workshops on Saturdays. They've had ones for kids with their parents, and what folks have to do is work for an hour, and then they have a 2-hour workshop. And so, I think that this Saturday it's infused oils, herb infused oils.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Didn't even know about that.
Luckily I'm on their mailing list because I haven't gone to any of them, but it keeps giving me ideas because we have talked about trying to do workshops as well next summer. The other thing that we're doing that is kind of expanding our ability to reach folks, we wrote another grant that gave us enough money to build a couple of raised beds. Now, right across the street from the Barton Library, if you've been there, is Barton Grade School, which has one of Green Mountain Farm to School's wonderful, wonderful gardens in it. And we work pretty closely with Green Mountain Farm to School. I just met with their new folks the other day and encouraged them to come, and they get seeds from High Mowing, but we have so many other different kinds of seeds. I encourage them to join and come in and see what we have available. And I've had their folks come to many of our meetings. So we met with them and said, this is what we're thinking. We want to expand the gardens and build at least 2 more and use them as demonstration gardens. So there we would be able to really show people how to start seeds, how to plant, how to trellis, how to plant in pots. I'm thinking one of them we might devote to making what's called a seed garden. So it would be a garden of things like biennial vegetables that
just
we could
for
leave
seeds.
And just for seeds, just to see how we can do it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Something to factor into that is Vermont Land Trust now owns Bluff Farm.
That's true.
And the Vermont Youth Community Corporation has been growing veggies there for the health share program, but there's a lot more land and they really might be open.
That's true. I've been reading about them and thinking they're a group we should approach just to see how
it's a fabulous group.
Just to see how we can collaborate. I was saying to, I think it was to the folks at Green Mountain when I was there this week, that one of the things that's wonderful about living in this part of Vermont, even though Vermont's just a great state, and I've been here full time now for about 7 years and feel more at home than I've ever felt anywhere, but we have less resources, and I find that folks in the Northeast Kingdom really work well together.
Yes.
Like we work on collaboration because we're not rich in resources, so we really need to help each other, and that is a group I've thought would be great to really.
Yeah. I mean, part of the reason for this show is that there is so much happening up here that nobody knows.
That's true.
That there are little groups doing an amazing job, and nobody knows.
That's true. I mean, I hear all the time that people will say, what seed library? What is a
Yeah.
seed library? And, you know, we have a brochure that we try to put out, and we make an effort, but definitely it's still, you never know where people are going to hear about something or
Right.
where it's going to really catch their interest. And I do think the farmer's market's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we might be able to do something next week.
that would be fabulous.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's another little piece
It
of
is another
networking. I mean,
little
networking works.
Yes, it does.
It really does. I mean, many of us are allergic to endless meetings, but
Yes.
the networking where there's a component of learning and doing.
Yes, I've always
Hooks
found
a lot
that
of us.
meeting with other people, the synergy. I mean,
Yeah.
as you said, I hate endless meetings too, and I had plenty of them in my career as an educator that I would have done
Exactly.
without. But I find that the synergy when you really get together with like-minded people
Yeah.
and you start, I mean, ideas just flow.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful.
And people have such different expertise. So somebody like Tom is incredibly knowledgeable about garlic because he's learned
Yes.
on his feet,
Right.
the hard way. And then somebody else talks about carrots and
Yeah, that's.
whatever else we're all fascinated by.
I know, and there's so much in this area. I meet with another little thing that I do. I meet a lot of farmers, young and old, and there's just so much wisdom out there. And some of the young farmers, besides being enthusiastic, are so knowledgeable
Yes.
about plants and trees and herbs and how things interact. It's really, it just makes me wish I was about 20 years younger, but
Right.
other than that.
When I first, quote, found Sterling College, I thought, wow,
I
wish
know.
I was just starting college. What an
I
amazing
know.
program.
I know, it's true, it's
Yeah.
true. But, I mean, I sort of resigned myself to becoming one of the old wise ladies and not being able to do everything.
But we can still be involved. We may be old, but we're not past it.
No, we're not past it, ever, never.
So Sterling College is another of those great resources.
It
It's
is.
so local.
And they're doing so many amazing things there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me, I remember always hearing about it, but it seems in the last 2 years,
Yes.
things have just taken off there. I have a friend who's been taking a number of classes there.
Yes.
They've been wonderful. Oh, yeah, that's another great resource, though, you're right. I mean, it's finding the time to connect with everyone
Yeah.
is a little bit hard, but.
Yes. They appear to be really encouraging students there to experiment.
Yes, they are.
We've got the land. You want to try something out, go for it.
Yeah, yeah. I have the friend who's been taking classes is looking very seriously at biochar. And so one of the students there, that's going to be his focus for study. And
Yes.
so he's able to really do the research for this person and help him get the biochar off the ground. So they're very encouraging that way. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking if there's anything else. Well, I'll show you the Baker catalog because it's probably a third of the size of the Seed Savers. So Baker Creek is a wonderful heirloom, and you can see how this is not your typical.
Yeah.
It also,
Would this be available at the library for people to look at?
it is at our library
Yeah.
because you have to purchase it, and I know they do sell it at Newport Natural. I've seen it there.
Yes, I've
So
seen
we
it there,
usually
too.
donate at least one of them to the Barton Library. And so we have a special section in the Barton Library of just gardening books. Barton Library, if you've ever been there, is really small. And so it's hard for them to house too much, but they gave us a wonderful space for our seeds and the notebook, and Tony and the other folks that work there are great at helping people go through the process. But they also gave us room for some magazines and books that people can borrow and take out on gardening.
Or at least look at while they're there.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But I would be really open too if there are other libraries that just want to do it and they have someone, you have to have somebody either on staff or probably more practically a volunteer who's willing to do the work. And as I said, right now we're doing these little seedlings and kind of keeping them under the auspices of the Orleans County Seed Library, which that was just a name. I tried to find a name. I was kind of wanted something cute and acronymy, but it didn't work out. But it's not for just Orleans County, as I said.
Right.
But I mean, I would also be happy to help another group get going with their own if they wanted to have a standalone seed library, because I just think it's a wonderful resource for people.
Well, if there was a community greenhouse, that would be a great place.
That's true. I love that idea, Pam.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think I can get my husband to build another one, but
There may be a way of getting funding for that.
There might be.
And maybe that's something that Bluff Farm at some point would be interested in, the land trust.
That's true, because they've got the room.
Yes, they've got lots of room.
And I think of it kind of like, you know how the Center for Agricultural Economy has that venture center where folks can come. And for those of you who don't know it, it's a place where, say you made the best spaghetti sauce, your family raved about it, and you wanted to be able to sell it commercially, but you don't have a commercial kitchen. You can use the Venture Center's facility to do the processing, and then you're able to commercially sell your product. So something like that where, you know, for a greenhouse where people can come and have their space, kind of like you have a plot in a community garden where you can start your seeds, and have to be very honorable about not taking other
not stealing people's seeds, and
yes,
hoping they don't cross-pollinate as well.
Yeah, but I think there have to be some
happen.
Yeah, there'd have to be some monitoring for that. And some things are so much easier to grow. I mean, tomatoes, you don't worry about cross-pollination.
No.
Everybody wants a greenhouse for tomatoes and peppers, which don't cross-pollinate, and necessarily, I mean, it's not impossible, but they don't usually, and they are the easiest seeds to save. Tomatoes and peppers are so easy.
So funny, because we never really think about the secret life of seeds.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, they do have a very some of them are, you know, pretty risque.
Never think about that.
No. I know, and nothing's impossible to pollinate. I'm looking at trying to do a seed bed further away from my regular garden on the other side of my house, so that I can do some things that I don't want to cross-pollinate. I'm going to play around with that next year and see how I do with that too. You're
really a sort of one-woman experiment here.
I love it.
Probably others within the group are doing similar things.
They are. I have a friend who grew sweet potatoes this year. I don't know how they're doing in her garden, but she grew them from an organic sweet potato that she bought somewhere as her slip. Yeah. And so she's doing that. I just cannot stop myself from seeing what will root. So I'm constantly, I have these baby oaks right now that are in their second year, and they're from acorns that were by the community bank in Barton. And I thought, I just see if I could grow some oak trees. And you know what? I'm growing oak trees. So I just can't help myself with things like that. I love to see, you know, what will come up. And
then you'll be looking for homes for them?
Oh, we have about 6 acres, so I think
you've got plenty of homes.
I told my husband, find homes, but eventually, if I keep doing this, we're trying to kind of turn our land over to some more interesting things than white birch and some of the pines that we have. So we're adding a lot of different things.
And probably some of the younger people in the area, because not that I'm suggesting some of us are older, but trees are a long-term investment.
Oh, they are. I mean, oaks, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we did plant apples this year. We had a couple of old apples on our property, and I said, you know what? This is going to be a splurge, because I'd really like to eat some of these apples.
Yeah.
So, you know, we only bought 3 not full size, but decent enough size that we'll probably have apples in 2 or 3 years. The rest, I'm hoping my grandson wants this property, because.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. And that's true with a lot of things.
Right. We unfortunately are about out of time.
Oh my goodness.
It goes so fast.
It does.
So, how would somebody reach you if they're really interested?
Okay.
The quick and easy way.
The quickest, if you're on Facebook, that's an easy way. Just look for the Orleans County Seed Library, and then you can send us a message. We have 2 pages. One is a public page, and the other is a discussions page, which you do have to, you know, be permitted to join, but everybody's permitted to join. Well, though we're trying to keep that as a local. So, you know, sometimes we have people that like our regular page from California, and I don't mind them being on the discussions page, but I don't see much point in it. And so those 2 are both there, Orleans County Seed Library discussions, and then just Orleans County Seed Library. And then as well, we do have an email, which I try to check every day, and I have another person who checks it. She's better than I am. That is nekseeds@gmail.com. And then we're happy to get back to you. The library, unfortunately, is not open every day. Like many of our little towns, it's open on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday mornings in the summer. But I'm also happy to meet people with materials if that's impossible for them.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Welcome. I'm glad to.
And now we have to figure out how to get this greenhouse.
I know we do. Oh my goodness, that's got my wheels turning.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks, Pam.